We just say hello a lot until you say please stop. Hello. You're hurting me. Hello and welcome to Negative Space, the podcast where art students talk about art. Today we're going to talk about arts. We are. What? That's no one told me about this. We always talk about art, and today we're going to talk about art again because it's fun. Yeah. I'm Simone. I'm Sam, and today we have back with us
Simone and Sam.
Yes.
Other Simone.
We have other Simone and other Sam. Let's begin.
So let's introduce our guest again. This is Lindsay.
Hello.
Hi. Lindsay, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Lindsay. I go to Art Center, and I am a third-term student.
Yeah. And this is also our other guest, Gwen. If Gwen wants to introduce herself.
I am your dark overlord.
Oh,
Gwen, please.
Yep. Accurate. How you guys doing?
I'm doing good.
That's good.
Did you know that yellow highlighters don't create shadows when you photocopy them?
That's interesting.
It was on Reddit. Also, it's 4:20 at this time of recording.
Gotta take a Snapchat.
I think that's very important. It's actually 4:19, but I'm just calling it early.
Oh, okay.
Just to warn you guys. But
hang on, we gotta take a 4:20 Snapchat.
Yeah, this is very important to.
Please enjoy this lovely music.
It's 4:19.
In the break.
Yeah, I just said so. Jesus fucking Christ.
I don't know what's going on right now. I feel like I've entered like an alternate dimension.
Elevator music.
Imagine going to an elevator music concert. It would just be all people standing around, like awkwardly trying not to make eye contact with each other.
Someone fart.
Yes, so good.
Someone would fart and no one wants to take credit for it.
That's so good. Holy shit. That's so good.
I need to use that.
It's gold.
I need to use that for something.
It's gold. Okay, so today we are going to talk about deliberate practice, which is something that I think all of us know a lot about and have very personal experience with.
If you're ever trying to get professional at anything, you need it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people do it without knowing what it's called. I mean, it's not like someone invented deliberate practice yet. It's something that's existed for a long time. But, someone went through and
science.
Someone made a term for it.
Yeah, someone made a term for it. Today we're going to talk about that, and we're also going to talk about
skill versus talent. Suffering, apparently, in the show notes.
Yeah,
we're gonna
suffering
talk about
is in the show notes, because that's,
I love suffering.
And we're gonna close it all off in a nice little gap bow.
Yeah, a gap
bow that was bought for $50.
Yeah. So, I mean, why don't we start off with a question let me ask all of you guys. Do you think talent is real?
Yes.
This is a thing that exists. Let's go around.
So real. There are so many people who just it's not necessarily talent so much as the aptitude for something, that you try something and you immediately get it, and there are just people who start on different planes of existence in terms of how quickly they get it.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Simone?
It's kind of like having a really early learning curve.
Yeah.
That is my idea of what talent is.
Yeah.
Really early, really rapid learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
Add on to what Gwen said, I think that there is a level of talent that people can possess, but I think that really it's kind of minuscule in comparison to hard work.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I kind of agree with. I think it's not as big of a factor as a lot of people think it is. I think a lot of people, when they see that you're drawing or whatever, they're like, "Wow, you must be so talented."
Well, because they see no other context of you working, right?
Yeah.
They only see you in that one instance, and they think this person must be talented, without seeing those hours and hours of work that is often put into it.
We also, as a whole, attribute art to having talent, or something creative as having talent.
What always gets me though is when teachers say it. Like, that really kind of throws me off a little bit.
What do you mean?
Whenever a teacher will, talk about some other student, and they'll be like, oh yeah, she's really talented. And that gets me, that, I don't know, it rubs me a little bit in the wrong way.
I always take that as, because I know that they mean talent, but in my mind I interpret it, as I think, oh, they're not, it's probably just them, they probably put a lot of work into it. It's not just an automatic,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I feel like when I hear that, I just hear
I rationalize it in my mind.
Yeah, I hear it more as, oh, they're really good versus like, oh, they
Yes.
inherently are great at everything.
I agree with Sam though. I keep getting that whinge that every time an art teacher will be like, really talented, it just puts you at that you are at the bottom level and they're at the top level and there was nothing you could do about it because they were talented.
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know. It's just the term, you know, it's the term that exists and it's the term that most people think of instantly. So that's kind of the term that comes out when they're thinking about it. But it just irks me just a little bit when teachers say it because it's like, you know, you of all people should understand that.
I mean, you're talking about art teachers?
Yeah, art
Yeah.
teachers. Bob says it sometimes.
Bob
Robert says
says
it
it.
sometimes.
Jeff said it.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember. You know, I wasn't that fixated on it in first term. Like I hadn't read a lot of the books that I have read now, so it didn't bother me that much before. But like now that I've done a lot of reading about it, now it gets to me. Whenever I hear the word, it gets to me.
Yeah, but you might notice a lot of the younger teachers like Peter, they don't say it.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like for Bob Cotto, he had this whole story thing where he was like, Bob Cotto just tells stories all the time. Amazing. But he was going on about how when people are like, oh man, how'd you draw so good? And then he's like, well, it's not like, or like, how long did that take you to draw that? He's like, well, your approach to how long it takes you to draw that shouldn't be how long it took you to draw that specific piece. It's how long it took you to get that good. So
A lot of master artists, like, you know, they can draw really quick and it kind of makes you feel down. You're like, oh, I should be working at that speed. But the thing is, it's just an accumulation of, like, knowledge and skill that, you know, you have to work to. You can't just automatically have it. Like, you can't watch them do it and see, oh, that's how he does it. Okay, I can do it now.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. You have to, like, learn the process, you know?
There's nothing there. I mean, there's nothing out there where it's just like you can watch someone else do it and then just be able to do it. Like, there's nothing like that. Even
Turning
things
on a
that look
sink.
simple, like, okay.
Flushing
I
the
mean,
toilet.
Yeah, but are you a master at turning on the sink, Simone?
Of course. Have you seen me turn on the sink?
I mean, Simone's skills are
Yeah.
just
her fingers just get right in there.
Oh gosh.
Get
Thank
right up
you.
on that sink handle.
Anyways, yeah. I mean, whenever I hear teachers say the word talent, I think what they mean is skill. You know?
Yeah.
I think that's the word that should
know.
be there.
I don't know if they mean that though.
I don't know if it's what they mean, but I think that is what they're actually talking about. I think they're talking about the skill that person has.
I generally think that they're talking about you have a leg up in this industry, perhaps one that they're referring to, like I knew people like you when I was working professionally, and like people like you had that leg up above me in the industry because you were so talented.
Mm-hmm.
I feel I just hear talent. For me, talented is like the same thing as good. So like, you're just like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, she's good. Like or like oh, like.
Yeah, it's the sort of
Yeah.
thing where you have to, like, kind of redefine it in your mind when you hear people say it.
Yeah.
Because you have to understand that other people, like, a lot of the times when people say talent, they don't actually understand, like, not what talent means, but, like, you know, the work that goes behind quote-unquote talent
Yeah.
Yeah.
being culminated.
Guess what I think, but I feel like talent as a word in itself doesn't really have that much meaning for me, because it's just like it is thrown around so much, and like a lot of people like use it for other like.
Yeah, they mean other things.
Yeah, so for me, it's just whenever I hear talented, I do redefine it. It's more like,
Yeah.
She's just good, or he's
Yeah.
just good. That's
You're right.
what it
Yeah.
is.
I think in a lot of people, if they hear skill or they hear talent, they'll think it's the same thing. But I think for us, we define those words differently. Like,
Yes,
for us,
absolutely.
those are separate words. Like, in my mind, talent is something that has nothing to do with how much practice you put in. It's something that maybe some people are just inherently, like you said, Gwen, some people just take to it better. Like, you know. But skill, on the other hand, is something that you cultivate, like something that you have to put time into in order to have.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that's, you know, when people say the word talent, I think that's just people only see a combination of skill and talent put
Yeah.
together, and that's what
But
they're
you don't
actually...
really believe in skill.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I don't.
Talent, sorry.
Talent, you know, I always thought that talent was like a thing. You know, I just assumed that some people were naturally better at some things than other, and I think I still sort of believe that. But one of the books that we're probably gonna talk about a lot is this book called Peak by Anders Ericsson.
He is a neuroscientist who made it his life's work to study why people are good at things, basically. Mm-hmm. He's like the pioneer. His work was quoted by Malcolm Gladwell in the book Outliers, which is the most famous one. It's like everyone's heard of the 10,000 hour rule, right?
Yes.
That number came from this book. It was popularized by Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, but the actual research for the number came from Anders Ericsson's work, and he recently released a book about a couple months ago that is basically just, Outliers is like a huge book that has other things kind of in it, but Peak is just about his research and what he was doing to figure out this like 10,000 hour number.
Yeah.
But in the book, I think Anders Ericsson really definitely believes that talent doesn't exist. Like, everyone is kind of the same when they're born in terms of what they're capable of achieving. Like, he talks about virtuosos like Mozart, like people who like really changed the world or like were incredible top of their field, but he points out reasons why
there's still a context to why they became that way.
Mozart was raised in a family where his father was a musician, his sisters were a musician, he was raised into this from so young, so young, that it was inevitable kind of that he became, the talent that he is. Or I just said the word talent again.
But is that true? I mean, there are plenty of other people, especially now, who are also raised in similar situations that may not become such virtuosos.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's like because there's, even if you don't have like any sort of context like that, you still have, I guess, your own personality, right? And it's still influenced by the environment, but there's some of it that is like genetic.
Oh yeah, sure.
And stuff. So I think that plays into it, but like in such a way where it has to be like you were interested in this thing to even begin. Because if you like don't look into it at all and don't find any interest in it at all, there won't be any of that in your life anyways. So
I think to add on to that, like the whole thing about having individual personalities, I feel like that's like your own personal aesthetics as you grow up, like starting from like when you're just first out of the womb, whatever, right?
Yeah.
I think when a freshly baked child comes out of the womb, I think that the second that they're being introduced to all these new things, that's what adds up to like becoming like talent in a way. So I think it's like a mix of what you were saying, that like environmental factors, but also like personality. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, because like whenever you give a child, like when they first draw something, like a child doesn't have motor skills to draw something good, so you can't really say that they're talented. It's more like they liked it enough to keep drawing, and whether those drawings were good enough, that's what adds to the talent.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that to an extent, but I also think that more of those circumstances where you are encouraged from a young age, or you latch on to something, is more like the development of passion. It's like your instinctual drive to do this thing, and so you just do it a lot. But I don't necessarily associate that with talent.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm not saying that Anders Ericsson is right that talent doesn't exist, but I think it has it's a much smaller role than people think.
Yeah, of course.
Like I think people attribute a lot of people's achievements to talent when really only a fraction, like a tiny percentage of that. But the thing is that it multiplies, right?
Yes.
The better you get at something, the more you want to do it, and the more you want to do it, the better you get at it.
Mm-hmm.
So people with just that tiny sliver, that just, the barest leg up, it multiplies itself, and then they become...
It's exponential.
Exactly.
Oh, I agree with that part.
Yeah, and what you were saying, like, having to have a passion for it. There's another book called Grit by Angela Duckworth. I know, but she actually recently gave a TED. I don't know if it was recent, this year or last year's TED conference, but she gave a TED talk about it. Basically, it's about grit. It's like, how good are you at sticking with one thing, for extended periods of time. Basically, it just determines how good you can become at something, because if you don't stick with something, it's like, so we were going to talk about The Gap, which is this really great quote by Ira Glass. He basically talks about how there's a gap when you first start creating things. There's a gap between what you're able to perceive as what is good and what you are capable of creating.
It's between taste and capability.
Exactly. Yes. And he says, when you first start out, you can tell that what you're doing isn't good enough, that it's not what you want. And most people just give up at that point. And you have to keep going in order to achieve, a higher level of skill. And basically, the book Grit is about what it is that people have that lets them keep going through the gap, through not being satisfied with their own work.
Yes.
It's perseverance.
Yeah, it's perseverance. It's a combination of like passion and just, I guess, what your personality
putting your
is.
mind to it.
Yeah, like whether or not you react adversely to setbacks. So yeah, it's a really interesting book, and you can watch her TED Talk. She basically summarizes what the book is about in her TED Talk.
And it's interesting because I have a little sister. She's like 9. It's hard to keep track of kids' ages. She is 9, but she is going through this phase where, like, because she's seen me like drawing and stuff around her all her life, like now she really wants to draw, and she's like always saying, "Oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not as good as you, so I have to keep practicing." And it's really like, it's interesting to see that like from a young age, and to see like somebody that's actually starting to put their mind to it and trying to dedicate to like getting better. And it's interesting because like I think a lot of kids, the thing about this and kids and like drawing and stuff is that kids like don't give up. Mm-hmm. Like, if you put a piece of paper in front of an adult and you give them a pencil and you say, "Here, draw this," if they don't draw, they'll be like, "Oh no, I'm no good at art," or like they'll just like draw a stick figure and they'll be like, "This is the best I can do." And it's like, but you're not actually trying though. Yeah. Like kids actually try. They really like put their hearts into it because they don't have this perception of like, magic talent. Like they just know that they're drawing.
Kids don't have taste, that's the thing.
They don't have taste.
That's true. That's the funniest thing. The funniest thing is when you look at the difference between kids who are really young, like I'd say up to like 6 years old, and kids who are older than that. Because I've taught, I worked over the summer at an art school, and we would teach really tiny, like starting at like 4 years old, like really tiny kids, all the way up to like 15-year-olds. And the thing is, the kids who are not at an age yet where they can perceive that their own work is not as good as they want it to be, they are so free. They just do, they love it, and they have a lot of fun doing it, and a lot of their stuff, it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Like not because it's like they have practice and skill, whatever. Yeah. It's just because it's,
they're not being
they just don't have any like
they're not being held back by themselves.
Yeah. Or the idea that they're not good enough.
Yeah, like, you watch a 6-year-old draw, like, a tree, and they'll do, like, some crazy stuff with, like, like, tons of colors, and they'll, like, put some, like, figures or whatever, and they don't give a damn about, like, what's in it. But you watch, like, a 13-year-old draw a tree.
Very meticulous.
And it'll look like a 13-year-old drew a tree. Like, you know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, that's really interesting because, like, a lot of, God, I'm gonna get this wrong, but, like, more, I guess, abstract art, it'll, people will say, "Oh, it looks like a child's drawing." And that's, other than that being directly insulting just because they think that it's not realistic, I think that's really interesting, like, that kind of commentary, because when they say it looks like a child drew it, they don't mean like a 13-year-old. They mean like a 4-year-old, And that's, like, really interesting, like, just to observe that, like, lack of inhibition and how that actually can, like, add to the kids drawing.
And it really does. It does make it better. Like, I can't tell you what exactly it is. It's just like when kids hit a certain age, they stop drawing how they want to draw and they start drawing how they think things should be drawn.
Yeah. There was something I was listening to that was about that. I can't remember for the life of me what it was about.
It was this podcast in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. But it was literally talking about how if you sit a child down, tell them to draw a house, they'll just draw a house. But if you tell like an adult to do that, it's basically the same thing. They'll be like, "Oh no," they're just being held back so much that they're like, "Oh no, I can't do this. Like, I'm not."
And they don't want to be embarrassed either.
It's that too. They feel like they're held back in some way, either by themselves or by society, or they're afraid of something. Yeah. There's just something about that kids, they just don't care about what other people think about.
Yeah. I mean, I think for a lot of adults, it's the sort of thing where like adults are good at enough things where if they're bad at like drawing, it's really embarrassing because they're like, this is the one part of my life that I have no control over, which is drawing a person. And it's just like...
I honestly think that a lot of adults are so discouraged from creativity and thinking that artists are so special in the fact that they are just so creative and just recapturing that thing that they had when they were kids, that because what they do to support themselves doesn't involve any creativity, they think of artists as very separate. So they think of them almost as like a separate animal.
Yeah, like
almost as gods.
Either as gods or as something lower.
So then
one or the other.
That would associate again with the talent thing. That talent comes to only certain people.
Yeah.
That idea that it comes to certain people, and it's really just the embracing of creativity, right?
Yeah. Talent is basically just like an obsessively pursued interest.
Yeah, I think it really is about grit.
Yeah. True grit. That's supposed to be a good movie, right?
I don't remember.
I watched. I
I've
don't
never
remember.
seen it.
I still disagree.
Wait, what was that movie about?
It was about cowboys.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
It had Jeff
I don't
Bridges
think
in
I
it, I
see
think.
Anyways.
It's my baby.
Yeah. Grit is just, grit is just perseverance. It's about like a combination of actually wanting something bad enough that you'll stick with it through the parts that are really bad. Something that people like really tend to latch onto whenever I talk to them about going to art school, it's that they're like, well, number one, they're like, how do they grade your art if it's all subjective? And it's like, no, listen, this is not how it works.
Yeah.
But, also, I will tell them, like, it's a huge workload and it's really a lot of... And people will be like, oh, but you're having fun, right? And I'm like...
It depends.
I'm having as much fun as any other student at college would be having.
Yeah, but the thing is, like,
It's less, you think?
Probably less, actually.
Less. I
because
think
we
less.
are working so hard.
like, yes, I love what I'm
What about
doing.
like a medical student though?
Yeah,
just,
that's
just
true.
saying, like, if you're
Actually-
working, it's a hard degree.
I've actually heard people compare, like, I've heard some people, like, yeah, my brother goes to middle school, and then he looked at the workload that I had, and he was like, wow, you have it even harder.
Yeah, I mean, this is not...
I
this
feel like
isn't
coming
surprising to me.
from art center, a majority of art center students though, that like we are the type like art center I think is a very different place
It's
where
very about true grit.
yes, and that and like the idea of fun comes second to how much work you're doing at art center.
Because
Yeah.
we enjoy
So-
suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and people say, like, oh, you must be having so much fun. And it's like, no, I'm not really having fun. Like, it's not about, it's not about
It's not like
having
we're
fun
running through the
right
streets
now.
with like, you know.
Yeah, it's not like I could be partying and that would be fun in itself, but this isn't that kind of fun. Like, when I'm doing it, I'm not thinking, wow, this is so much fun. I love,
You know.
I feel like there's certain assignments where I'm actually like, oh.
I mean, you
Yeah.
are enjoying
Yeah.
it, but that's because it's your passion, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, even within your passion, to get better at it, there's a lot of, like, you
there's
know...
a lot of not fun.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of not having fun that is involved.
Exactly.
It's more
There's-
like
and-
playing video games is fun, but
Right.
following your passion isn't, like, that fun.
Even playing video games, like, if you're trying to get good at it,
It definitely,
can...
yeah, if you're treating video games as a skill, but
Of
like
course.
whatever you do for fun, like whether you play Frisbee or play video games
Yes.
or play Twister or whatever, you think of that as fun.
that's so, I love how you just went to Twister.
Don't
yeah,
judge me.
there's this whole chapter of Peak that is specifically about why people who are doing deliberate practice are not having fun while they're doing it.
Yeah.
Because what you have to do, so we've gone this whole way without like specifically defining deliberate practice, but in the book, it's basically mindless practice is just when you do something that you already know how to do and you just do it. Like for instance, like I think a good example is writing, like handwriting.
Yes.
Like you are gonna be writing by hand all your life probably, and you've been doing it for a really long time. But has your handwriting actually gotten any better in the last 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 10 years?
You don't make an effort
Probably
to
not.
improve your handwriting.
Yeah,
Exactly. You're not making a conscious effort to improve it. So deliberate practice is when you are actually thinking about what you're doing, having goals for yourself and what you want to achieve, and doing that, like self-evaluating as you're doing it, and that can suck a lot. Like
Yes.
that can feel pretty bad.
You have to
because
be
you
really
have
critical.
Yeah, and he did the study where he had people who were professional singers and people who just didn't do it professionally but just sang for fun, and he had them come in and do a recording into a studio, and he had them just do a couple takes of something, and then he had them rate how fun it was afterwards. And the beginners, or just the people who just did it for fun, they were like, oh yeah, that was great, I got to they had a lot of fun doing it. But the professionals rated it consistently as less fun than people who were just who weren't
Doing it for
professionals.
whatever.
Yeah, because people who actually make a living doing it, they're constantly being critical of what they're doing, and they see it as a practice time rather than just doing whatever they want and just because if you're not specifically focusing on what it is you're doing and how you're going to improve, and you don't have specific goals for yourself, then you're not actually helping yourself improve.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, people think, like, some people will say, well, oh, like, you're supposed to love art, though, and, if you're not loving it, then why are you doing it?
Exactly.
And it's just, like, you don't understand that to create something and to have a created product by you are two completely different things. The process of creation is so, like, that's the part that sucks. And it can be fun, but it's, like, it's a lot of work. And when you look at a final product, you're not thinking,
You're not thinking.
You're not thinking about your work.
Yeah.
About working then, because you're thinking, I have this final product, and it makes you feel really good if you like it.
Mm-hmm.
But the actual process of creating art in and of itself, like most of the time, even for people who are super passionate, it's not that fun.
Yeah,
It's
like
arduous.
what you say, what you mean when you say I love what I do is
Yes.
not you. I love that I am at this place, that I have products that I'm capable of creating this. Not I love sitting here like 8 hours a day.
Yes,
grinding
exactly.
down on this homework. Like I love being at art school, not because I am actively enjoying every piece of homework that I am creating.
It's like the paycheck to your day job.
Exactly.
It's
It's like I know that I'm coming out of here with like a finish, like a skill that I'm developing, that I'm gonna be able to do all these amazing things, and I like having that skill, but I don't.
the process
Yeah.
of working through it. It's not a completely different story, but it is like, it's definitely a factor that's not
It's
fun
more
games.
like grinding, like in video games. You're grinding to get to the next
daily
boss.
grind.
And but sometimes that victory, even if it has been like a lot of work and not a lot of fun, that victory,
Feels good.
it feels really good.
But the thing is, though, when you're talking about how it's a final project, like it's a final product, and you feel really good about it. But the thing is, when you're critically looking at it, sometimes you look at that final piece and you're like, it's not good enough.
Yeah,
Of course.
And that's where the deliberate practice comes in, where every single thing you do, you're so critical about it that sometimes it just isn't fun. Like no matter what, like
it's like grinding. Grinding is
Yeah.
not fun.
This
We do it.
this entire subject that we've been talking about, it sounds really dour, but really like, it's something that has to be done, and when you do it, the product is so satisfying that it's all worth it.
the
Exactly.
final end.
The
goal.
final end goal. So like as we're talking about it, you might think, oh, this sounds awful. I don't want to be an artist anymore because this just sounds
We
like a
crushed all
terrible
their dreams.
process. Like they don't sound like they're having fun at all. And it's because it's not only fun. You have to put in work to actually get that skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to be professional.
If you wanna
Doing
be
it as a hobby is
That's a
like,
totally separate
But I
thing.
mean, like, even if you are doing it as a hobby, if you really, like,
want to get good at it.
have a goal that you're trying to strive to, you're still going to go through the same process.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, you know what? It's important for people to know that that's not the end. It's
Yeah.
like, it's not you suffer, you suck, and you stop. You suffer and you keep
And you
going
suck.
and you become good. Like,
but then you keep doing that
right.
forever.
Just because you're bad now doesn't mean you're gonna keep being bad for the rest
Yeah.
of. And
Well.
people who don't see that, people who think that. Like if you just see one talented person and you see their work and you're like, wow, I wish I could draw like that, and you try and you can't do it, they think, well, I'm just not meant for it,
Yeah.
But that's not how it works.
I think that
You should have seen my drawings when I was 12 years old, people who think that
Oh man.
like, that is awful. There are some people who draw when they're 12 and it just looks like anime stuff.
man.
Mine was... like, it wasn't just anime-y. It was real bad.
Oh god. Listen, alright. This is going back to like when you're as a little kid. Like sometimes it's better than like as a 15-year-old, like thinking like, right? When I was really young, I would draw like princesses and like they're on a field and whatever. And I would love doing that. I'd love like having stories about them. And I was like 10 years old or whatever, right? And then I go to middle school and I'm in this art class. And my whole life I've been known as like, oh, the art kid, right? And so this is the first time we're like, all right, we're gonna like draw realistically now. Let's have you draw a face. I swear to God, that was the most demonic face I've ever seen in my entire life. And they were like, oh no, we're gonna have you draw like multiple faces, like just to get practicing. Every single one of them, because I was so conscious about like, oh, this has to be a realistic face. It just turned out awful, and I compared it to the work I was like the princesses I was doing as like a really young child, and it's like the princesses are objectively way better than like these like
the
weird faces.
Yeah.
And the whole thing about like working until like you reach these levels where you're like, oh, I suck, and like maybe I'm not meant for this. But what it is that I saw this graph once where what it is that your improvement when you first start out, it's a big leap, but then you plateau out. And most people stop when they plateau out because they're like, I've been at the same level.
They think that because...
They think that because they've stopped...
Hit that plateau.
Yeah. They think that because they've stopped improving at such a fast rate that they experienced the first time, that it's just going to be like that forever. But what it is that you plateau out and then you go up again once you realize that, like, once your talent meets your ability to put whatever. No, sorry, not talent. Once your taste meets what you can.
Your skill.
Yeah, your skill.
Because the thing is, like, when you're improving in this, your taste is, like, constantly improving.
Yeah.
So, like, usually, sometimes, but usually people don't start out with, like, super, super out of whack taste. Like, usually it starts out small, right? And then they'll meet, like, their standard for their taste at that time. And then it'll, like, as soon as they plateau, it, like, jumps up again. Mm-hmm. So you feel like you're not improving, when in reality, it just, like, happens and jumps, and your taste just keeps getting better.
That's the wildest thing to me, because I went back recently, and I was talking to you about this. I went back and looked at Burge. Do you remember?
She's not as good as I remembered her being in middle school, right?
You know?
I remember that. I'm sorry. There was this artist on DeviantArt called Invader Tiger Star.
Oh, man. You know they're good if they have a name like Invader Tiger Star.
Goddess! She was, I remember her being so good. She was great at Photoshop. She animated. She was everything. I just today looked, this is terrible. This is just... Like, I'm better than this now, and my taste is not there anymore.
Yeah. You know, it's wild. I looked at Burge. Burge was one of the, like, artists that I looked at, and I was like, oh, man, like...
I think I introduced you to her.
Yeah, you introduced me to her.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you know, I gotta get, you know, like, I'll never be able to, whatever.
Yeah.
And I looked at her, and I would copy her drawings sometimes, and I'd, like, be like, this is how I wanna... And now, I went back, like, a week ago, and I looked at it, and I was like, wow... I go to school with people who are better than this.
Oh, yeah, and you know...
Thank you.
You know, like, for me, it was this artist, McKenny, and she still, like, uploads stuff, and she's really good. But, like, I was, like, you know, obsessed with her work, like, from an early point, like, in her career posting online. And, like, going back and looking at her early stuff, I'm way better than her early work now, but that was my god worship, and now, like, her current stuff is my, well, it's not my god worship, but I really, like, love it, and it's something that I strive to still. So it's interesting, because a lot of those artists, like Burge, they kind of stop posting, but she, even though she posts less, she hasn't stopped, so I sometimes see her work, and it's just, like, kind of inspiring.
That's crazy.
Actually.
There's not a lot of artists that, you know...
Keep up for that long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm surprised.
She's, like, she started posting in, like, 2000s, and... she's not posting regularly, but sometimes I'll just see a piece of art by her and I'll be like, yes.
I think
that's cool, yeah.
She works for, like, a lot of, I think she works for Nickelodeon, and she's worked for Valve a bunch. But, it's just, you know, it's interesting to see, like, watch that curve and watch myself, like, have my tastes change and go back and see what it originally was like and be like, you know, it's kind of, there's kind of a weird parallel there.
I mean, I think that, like, well, there's this quote, I can't remember who said it, but it's like, you work until your idols are your coworkers.
Yeah,
your peers, right? And so I think what most people don't really get is that their tastes change, and it's not that they're getting worse, it's that their taste is getting better.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's part of why it's so important to have archives of your work. Like, I went back in, like, it was, like, 10th grade or 11th grade when I, like, looked back on some early stuff, and I threw a lot of it away.
That's sad.
A lot of digital files I ended up throwing away because I was like, oh, they're so bad, I don't want to look at them. And now I really, really regret doing that.
It's too bad you didn't have a DeviantArt, because now that stuff's there forever.
I had a DeviantArt, except I didn't post a lot of them. I deleted stuff. I deleted stuff off DeviantArt.
I have an old DeviantArt.
And I deleted stuff off my computer. It's okay. But there were still, you know, I still managed to find, like, some emails I sent to you have some really old stuff in them. Like, I didn't go through and delete emails. So if I search really hard, I can still find a lot of old stuff. Yeah. But it's crazy.
I'm lucky that I, like, didn't delete anything off my DeviantArt, and, like, I still, if you go far back enough on my Tumblr, there is.
No, if you go far back enough on my Tumblr, there's still some...
I've never deleted or thrown away anything that I've drawn.
That is really good impressive. Thing. You know, I have sketchbooks from when I was in elementary school. I have this really big purple one. I need to take a look at it.
My mom keeps a folder of the stuff I did when I was 2.
I have my friends, we have a friend, Lori Lou, she went to the same middle school, but she moved away. I still have, I feel like I'm kind of a hoarder, but only for art, like my friend's art. And I have her stuff from middle school and elementary school still. And she was my god worship, because she basically taught me how to draw. And I still have all of her stuff, and it's like, I just keep it, and, like,
I don't have like physical art from any of you guys. I feel like we should trade.
You have some from me.
I have some from you, but only, like,
but that's from, like, middle school, and
now,
I want you to delete it.
have my work on the fridge.
You know, like, it's okay.
the beautiful...
Sam, it's okay if I keep my old art, but you can't keep my old art. Like, I have to take that back from you and draw you a new one.
Oh, no.
I mean, that's kind of the thing, right? I mean, when you're in art school especially, it's like, you don't want my work. It's going to get better in, like, next term.
Yeah.
That's...
And you know, I feel, we were talking about like that initial incline, I still feel like I'm a little bit on that, because even though I'm not at the point where I'm like, you know, I think my work lives up to what I want it to be, I still feel like I'm improving pretty rapidly. So I'm like worried about hitting that plateau.
Yeah.
Because when I do, it's gonna suck for a while.
But maybe by the time you hit that plateau, you'll already be in the industry, and...
Yeah.
Well, by the time you hit that plateau, you might already be good enough. You know, and you don't have to worry
But
about
I
it
want to
as
be better
much.
than good enough.
Yeah, but you don't have to worry about it as much in terms
You'll
of
have
like
it.
making
I
a
think
living
that
on
some
it.
people. I think it depends. I really think that how people take that plateau, like, and how I think it really depends on their personality and like and how well they feel like when they're like. Like when you hit that plateau, some people are like, "Oh no, this is just the level I'm at. I'm just gonna deliberately practice, and then work to make it better, and like focus on like, oh, I'm gonna finish. I'm gonna make my hands look really well, and like they're able to take that stride. But other people, they hit that plateau, and all of their motivation just disappears. And I've had that feeling before, but like
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you know, I've hit bumps along the road in terms of like improvement, and like, you know, even like once a week I'll have like a little bit of like a mental breakdown where I'll be like, oh god, this isn't good enough yet. I need to be improving even faster. And of course that's unrealistic, but it's hard to resist because you're surrounded, especially on the internet in real life. You know, it's so disillusioning to be spending so much time on the internet looking at other people's art, because when you actually go out in real life and like talk to other people and even other artists in real life, it's like the skill level of the people around you suddenly is like
Just drops.
it drops. Like, it's like, wait, so like, because I forget that not everyone's an artist sometimes. Like, I'll go out and I'll be like, oh, you know, this is whatever, this is mediocre, what I drew, I could do better. But people will be like, oh, that is amazing in your sketchbook. And I'll just be like, oh, bless you, bless your soul.
Bless child.
I think being surrounded by other artists, like being in like close interaction with them, it kind of does bring like, you kind of see them more as someone who's improving, because the whole thing about being online is that you post the work that you're really proud of, right? Or most of the time, or like you post the ones that you're like, this is acceptable enough for like the online world to see.
Yeah, you only see the best.
Yeah, and like a lot of people don't realize that like maybe they're drawing 10 more other pictures that you don't see. Like,
Yeah, no, you know, it's always feels really bad when this happens. Like, I feel bad about thinking it, but whenever you see someone who's really good in class, you see them do a bad drawing and you're like, oh, like you feel a little better.
Yeah, it does feel better. It's,
you know,
it's like it's the idea like, oh, not
it
everyone,
kind of brings you back to reality a bit.
It's like not everyone makes masterpieces every single day of every single life.
I remember when I was younger and I just thought, oh, artists are those people on DeviantArt who just everything, the next thing that they draw is the next thing that they post, and it's just amazing, and it took almost no time, and they just came up with it at first, and there's never enough process behind all that. There's tutorials and whatnot, but nobody ever explains that.
I feel like that we're pretty biased on like how we take the do or die kind of thing, because we're all art center or like from Monte Vista, so like we've all got that. We've all have that mentality that's like, oh, we have to do this now, or like it's now or never.
Yeah.
It's like I'm gonna be the best or I'm not.
Yeah, it's
And
like I would rather not do a crappy job than do it at all.
Yeah.
You know?
And I feel like coming from Art Center, coming from Monte Vista, that most of our personalities are geared towards that, because like I feel like maybe people in other areas probably don't feel this way. But for us, I guess we're just drawn to that kind of life.
you know,
Motivation,
we would be unhappy doing anything else.
Yeah.
I also think that a lot of people in the industry itself, when an industry moves as fast as the entertainment art industry, at least for TV and animation or games, it's just constantly like you are either moving forward or you're getting like thrown under the wheels.
Yeah.
Like you are getting crushed.
So, you know, it is a good mentality to have for that specific industry, and I kind of feel lucky to have been thrust into that environment in my late middle school, early high school life.
Yeah.
I think it was, you know,
Constructive.
It was constructive.
Get you used to the pain.
Yeah, it put me through hell, but the outcome was generally preferable.
Yeah.
You either come out Superman or a wreck.
Yeah.
Why not
true.
both?
Yeah, or
Hey.
Wreck of the Superman.
Yeah. Yeah, I know Chelsea
Chelsea just visited San Diego, UC San Diego recently, and she was just talking about how she's like, yeah, did you know that like normal people just like have fun like all the time, like in college, like people just have fun all the time in college.
They actually have parties.
And like I
They
was thinking
drink.
about it. I don't know. I was just thinking about it. I was like, wow.
Wow.
You know, like, it's so weird, because I live with roommates that party, right? And so, like, they'll have parties, and I don't have any, like, understanding of, like, I understand, I guess, why they would do it, but, like, I just can't see myself ever doing it, because I don't have the time. Like, if I'm not working, like, arduously over, like, either art or music or something, I'm sleeping,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's either work or sleep. I can't do anything in between.
It's crazy. I just saw Dima, one of our friends, on League, and
Oh my
and
God.
I was talking to Ben, and I was like,
Yes.
is Dima on League? He's like, yeah, he's been playing like 6 hours a day, and I was like, how does he have time to be playing
6 hours?
6
Sorry, that
hours.
took, like, a second to
Yeah.
register.
Yes. I don't know. He was doing that for a while. I don't think he's doing it anymore. But I was like, how does he have time to be playing that much League? And Ben was like, I mean, like, you know, that's just how much normally. And I was like, what? How do you have time to? And then I thought about it. I was like, right.
You know, because
Normal people have time.
Yeah, because I go to, like, a normal college, my workload from the school isn't, like, that arduous as compared to, like, art center, but I still, like, personally motivate myself to keep drawing, even
Which
if
is
it's
excellent.
Yeah, even if it's, like, not something that's, like, you know, even if I'm not actively trying to improve on anything in particular, like, if I'm not doing deliberate stuff, I still want to draw, just because, like, if I, like, don't have the mental capacity to do it, is at least I'm, you know, keeping my hand in practice.
I feel like that motivation is a lot of what makes people, like, I feel like without that motivation, that's why a lot of people will just stop. It's because they just don't have the motivation to just keep going through with it every single day.
It's daunting.
Yeah, even though it takes up your time, even though, like, sometimes you don't like what you do.
It's not immediate.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yes.
not immediate gratification. You don't draw something and then suddenly you're good at it. It's not. It's not like that. So people who haven't had that mindset of having a goal in mind and knowing that they're gonna keep getting better, and who don't have hope for
Yeah.
it. You
Yeah.
know, if you don't have hope, then you
have to be determined.
Thanks,
to...
Moral Sam.
Yeah.
Let's all keep hope.
Don't give up hope, children. Anyways, so yeah, heavy topic, but I think it's important.
It's a
I
good
think
one.
it's very
Good.
important.
Yeah. Do we want to move on to our one cool things? I think it's
Yeah.
about a good time. Do you want to start, Lindsay? I think yours is very relevant.
Oh yes, mine is very relevant. It's a subreddit called Art Fundamentals, and it's based off of a class from a teacher that we have here at Art Center, Peter Hahn. But Art Fundamentals is run by someone else, someone who
I think his username is just uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable, yeah.
It's
So
great.
Uncomfortable runs it, and basically it follows the same structure that the Peter Hahn class takes, and a lot of it is about deliberate practice if you follow the homework stuff, if you look at it. And, like, the first few lessons, I remember looking at this before coming to Art Center, and I was looking at it, I'm like, who the feck wants to draw boxes, like 8 pages of boxes? Like, who wants to do that? Nobody wants to do that. But that's the thing about deliberate practice, that sometimes you gotta do what isn't fun to get where you want to go. And then it moves on to, like, and then it builds off of that and goes into, like, how to draw animals, how to draw cars. And it's a really good subreddit, and
Yeah.
You know,
It used to be, when he ran it earlier, like a couple of years ago, he used to give personal creds to everyone
Yeah.
who posted, but he
He
doesn't
got
do that anymore
too
because
much.
it
It got
takes
too
too much
big,
time.
yeah.
But he does do Patreon subscriptions, so if you support him on Patreon, then he'll give you personal credit. I think it's like $3, which is pretty good, you know,
Yeah, for a
considering.
class,
Yeah.
basically.
But it's good information. There's lots of demos. You can post just on the subreddit, and people will talk about your stuff. So it's, you know, it's a good community. You can check it out if that's what
You know,
you're
I
interested
didn't know
in.
about that subreddit.
Yeah,
Dang.
it's really nice.
I gotta
I was
subscribe
wondering why
now.
you kept drawing boxes every now and again. So like,
Mhm.
wow, that's really boring.
Yeah.
I'd rather draw something else.
Honestly.
Okay.
Yeah. Gwen, do you want to do your
Oh!
little thing?
What was my thing? It is. Wait, you ready? The link is there, but it is 25 of the cutest bat species.
That's the best. Oh.
There's the Honduran white bat, which is just like all white with an adorable little yellow nose and just looks like a flower. Bunch of little baby bats, and I think we should all remember that bats exist. In California, they're a little hard to find every now and again. But
That's an ugly bat. Gwen.
No,
I'm
it's not.
sorry.
It's
Looking
adorable.
Over at your screen, and that's an ugly bat.
It is the
I'm
split-nosed bat, and it
I
looks
think-
like Voldemort, and it looks...
I think everyone
Like a-
just has to look at the bats and just tell us which one is.
We'll link you. Email us, and we will email you back bats.
And if you said that the desert long-eared bat was the best one, you are correct.
So there'll be a link in the show notes to this list of bats.
It's good to always look and explore the wonders of nature, because if you are very concentrated on drafting, it's always important to look at what new things nature has to offer.
I think
It's like
also-
nature's like a superstore. It's like come into nature.
It's Nature Costco.
30% off.
We got bats.
Good.
All right.
I think what Gwen is saying though is that when you're so focused on something, it's good to look outside.
Yeah.
And just
It's good to have hobbies that aren't.
It is good to have hobbies.
Yeah.
Like my hobby for looking at weird deep sea creatures. One of my
Good
favorites.
segue.
Yeah.
High five.
That was a bad high five.
this is a very animalistic.
Yeah, I was gonna say this
Yeah.
is very animal oriented.
No, that was the number one rule of podcasts is every time you do a good segue, you have to talk about the segue, therefore ruining the segue.
Of course.
Go on. What is your one cool thing, Simone?
Okay, so my one cool thing is a deep sea creature called the barrel eye. It's also known as a spookfish, apparently. I didn't know
Oh my
about
god,
that
I
name.
love those spookfish. They're so
It-
creepy.
Yeah, they basically have transparent heads, and their eyes are under like the skin, and they point upwards mostly, but they can like rotate them.
That's
So that's weird.
weird.
But they look really cute, and it's my personal Twitter's icon.
Can I have a look-see?
Thanks.
This is
Yeah.
yeah,
They
That's-
kind of
That's crazy.
it's a good one.
That's great. We'll put a link to some pictures in the show notes. You
Yep.
can
So
check it
get
out.
ready to look at
Barrel
some
eyes.
really weird fish.
Yeah.
draw them.
All right. My one cool thing this week is this takes a little bit of explaining. But you guys know who CGP Grey is, right?
Yes.
No.
Okay. CGP Grey is a YouTuber who makes informational... YouTube. He makes educational videos, basically. He's really famous for the UK Explained video, which is basically the difference between England, Scotland, the United Kingdom, Britain, whatever. Anyway, all of his videos go, up into the millions of views. But he only
They
posts
go into the stratosphere.
yeah, once every 6 months or not 6 months, but he posts pretty
Infrequently?
rare. Yeah, pretty infrequently. So his latest video was called I think Rules for Dictators.
Yeah.
It was a great video. It's a fantastic video that talks about basically political power, and how it works, like how people stay in power, or why politics isn't as simple as a lot of people think it is. Anyways, so he does this great video, and at the end of the video, he says, you should check out this book, because a lot of what I was talking about is in this book. And so he advertises for this book in the video. And I was listening to his podcast about a couple days, maybe a week after this video was released, and he was telling this funny story about how essentially what happened was that so many people tried to go to Amazon to buy the book that he had recommended in the video that, number one, not only is Amazon sold out, he got an email from the publisher of the book and told him, hey, because of your video, every single copy of the book that exists right now has been sold. We're running a second printing of this book because there's so many back orders of people who want to buy this
That
book.
is awesome.
So it's unavailable on Amazon right now because of that. And the funniest part is, if you look on Amazon for used copies of this book, they run up to $450
Jesus Christ.
because the demand
it'll
for
come
them is
back
so
in-
high.
It'll come back in print by
I know.
you can just wait.
But the demand is just so high right now that if you want to get a copy of it right now, you can spend $450.
What about does it not
Wait,
have
what
an
book
ebook?
is
It does have an ebook. It's called
What?
The Dictator's Handbook.
Okay.
So why?
I don't know.
The power of YouTube endorsements.
Yeah.
I like
It's
holding a real
crazy.
book comparatively to a digital thing.
Yeah.
Though I find it harder to concentrate.
Yeah, but you can just get it so fast.
Yeah, I know.
Ebooks.
You just have once we get
Audiobooks.
those Amazon drones really going.
Yeah.
Just
I used to be like, Kindle, whatever, but it's just so fast that I'm like,
It's
if
so
I want to
fast.
read a book
Yeah, I know.
right now, I'll just buy the Kindle.
But
I'll just,
it's harder to get into it for me, even though
Yeah.
I usually download books.
Yeah.
It's just
Anyway, so that's my one cool thing. If you want to read that book, you can spend $450 to buy a hard copy.
Or you
version.
could get it on like Audible or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Oh no,
sponsored.
Sponsored.
We're not
Sorry.
Sponsored. Nah,
That's not sponsored.
that's not sponsored.
We're just talking about books.
Anyways,
Why does everyone get sponsored by Audible?
because they love
it's
to
'cause
endorse
they get,
YouTubers.
they get good
They
good
get people
returns
who
from
listen
it.
in.
Yeah,
this
you know,
podcast,
people
so
who are listening to podcasts are probably gonna listen to audiobooks. So
Yeah.
that's just a
That's
good.
a good point.
Anyways, so yeah, I think that is the conclusion of our episode for today. If you have questions, comments, concerns, you can email us at negspacepodcast@gmail.com.
Likes, comments, subscribe.
We are not a YouTube. Well, I mean, we have a YouTube
Yes, we
channel,
are. We are
but-
a YouTube channel.
But if you want to subscribe, you can subscribe on iTunes or YouTube or just via RSS. And yeah, so that is everything for today.
I'm not gonna drink water because I spilled a bunch of water earlier while making these noises. But
What do you think would happen to the
it's part of the
audio,
ASMR podcast, and
you know, without
I'd like to say
actually
thank you for
damaging
listening to this
how it would
episode,
sound to have
and,
water in the diaphragm?
yeah, have a good night, you guys.